She began kissing and touching him, but Zack couldn't understand what she was doing. "Hey, Auntie, stop what you are doing. I don't like it." Aunty Sonia said, "Don't worry, Zack, even your mates are doing the same. Everything will be fine, it's just a game." Zack was just a 5-year-old nursery student living in a grand mansion filled with the latest gadgets and luxury items. His parents, wealthy entrepreneurs, had dedicated their lives to making money online. Day in and day out, they were glued to their laptops, engrossed in their virtual worlds, their focus solely on profits. Despite the opulence surrounding him, Zack felt like a ghost in his own home, his laughter replaced by echoes of solitude, as his parents' constant busyness left him feeling neglected. Every day, Zack faced countless challenges at school. His parents rarely found time for his education, leaving him to navigate the complexities of nursery school alone. They were preoccupied with meetings and financial reports, unaware of the emotional toll their absence had on their son. Each evening, Zack returned home, his heart heavy, longing for even a moment of genuine connection. As school resumed on a bright Monday morning, Zack woke up feeling the weight of the world on his small shoulders. His parents had forgotten to prepare breakfast again, and the chaotic morning left him feeling unkempt. His school uniform was crumpled, his backpack half-packed. With a heavy heart, he trudged to school, a stark contrast to the vibrant mansion he called home. When he arrived at school, Miss Sonia, his caring and diligent teacher, noticed immediately that something was wrong. Her heart ached at the sight of Zack seated in the back of the classroom, tears streaming down his face. He looked frail and weary, as if the burdens of adulthood were resting on his tiny shoulders. She approached him with compassion, kneeling beside him. "Hey, Zack, what's the matter?" she asked gently. Unable to articulate his pain, he simply cried. Seeing his distress, Miss Sonia offered him a sandwich from her lunchbox, and Zack devoured it hungrily, like a child who hadn't eaten for days. The shock on her face deepened as she realized this was not just a case of missed breakfast, but a sign of deeper issues. That afternoon, when school ended, Zack returned home only to find his parents fast asleep, their laptops still humming beside them. The only food left for him was instant noodles, something Zack detested. Exhausted and defeated, he climbed into bed without dinner. The next day, Zack woke late and missed his morning routine. His parents had left for work, leaving only a handful of money on the table for him to buy food at school. Again, he arrived looking disheveled and tired. Miss Sonia, concerned for his well-being, noticed that Zack's uniform was stained and wrinkled. With a gentle smile, she took him to the bathroom, where he washed away the remnants of his struggles. Afterward, Zack emerged clean and refreshed, a smile breaking through his earlier gloom. Returning home, he greeted his parents, "Good afternoon, Mum." "Good afternoon, Dad," but received no response. None of them replied to him. Meanwhile, his parents noticed that Zack looked unusually tidy, and his uniform was spotless, something they knew for sure they hadn't cleaned themselves. They don't even want to know where Zack got cleaned up, and this was so unusual, unlike to other parents. Zack is ready to go to school. In the following morning, he realized that his parents had left to work again without preparing his breakfast. He went to school without taking bath. Upon arriving at school, he found Aunty Sonia sitting in class. She called him, "Hey Zack, why are you looking so dirty? Didn't you had bath before coming to school?" Zack replied, "No, Aunty Sonia, my mom left for work without having me bath." "Really? I wondered what type of parents you are having. Now follow me, let me freshen you up." Zack was glad to hear that from Aunty Sonia. As soon as they entered the bathroom, Aunty Sonia said, "Come, let me help you take off your clothes." In the process, she started touching Zack's private parts, kissing him, and did some sort of things that Zack couldn't able to comprehend. "Aunty Sonia, what are you doing? I don't like the way you are touching me," he screamed and ran out of the bathroom, and Aunty Sonia was left speechless. On the day Zack collected his results from Aunty Sonia, she handed him the report with a serious expression. "Hey, Zack, here's your result. Your performance wasn't good at all. You haven't been reading your books, right?" she asked, shaking her head. Zack looked down, feeling ashamed. He knew he hadn't been able to focus in school, but how could he explain why? Make sure you give this to your mom, Aunty Sonia added, sliding a folded letter into his hand. She had written a letter to Zack's parents, requesting that they come to school the following day to discuss his poor academic performance. The next morning, Zack went to school as usual, but his parents did not accompany him. When Aunty Sonia saw him, she frowned. "Hey, Zack, where are your parents?" she asked. Zack sighed and replied, "My mom said she's busy." "Busy?" Aunty Sonia repeated, unable to hide her disbelief. "Is she that busy when it comes to your education?" She stared at Zack, searching his face for any sign that he might be joking, but he was completely serious. "So that's why they've never set foot in the school since you were admitted?" she muttered, more to herself than to Zack. It was becoming clearer to her Zack's parents were too occupied with their work to pay any attention to their son. They didn't seem to care about how he was doing in school or even notice his struggles. "Okay, Zack, no problem," she said after a moment. "Tomorrow, I will go and see your parents myself. This is getting out of hand. I need to understand why they have abandoned you like this. You're still young, and it's their responsibility to take care of you." That night, Aunty Sonia couldn't stop thinking about Zack. He was such a bright boy, yet his parents had completely neglected him. The thought made her furious. Aunty Sonia was a beautiful woman, admired by many, but she had been unlucky in love. Men often saw her as too dedicated to her profession, always buried in schoolwork and responsibilities. Every relationship she had tried to build ended with the man walking away, frustrated that she never made time for them. After so many heartbreaks, she had stopped trying. The next day, a Saturday, Aunty Sonia went to Zack's house, knowing his parents would be home. As she arrived at the massive, luxurious mansion, she couldn't help but marvel at its beauty. "So this is where Zack lives," she whispered, taking in the neatly trimmed lawns, the towering pillars, and the shining marble driveway. She knocked on the large wooden door, and a housekeeper let her in. Stepping inside, she was even more shocked. The house was breathtaking, expensive furniture, sparkling chandeliers, and walls lined with the finest artwork. But despite all the beauty, the house felt empty, cold, like a place where love did not live. She found Zack's parents in the living room, both sitting behind their laptops, typing furiously. They barely looked up when she greeted them. "Good day, sir and madam," she said, her voice firm yet polite. Zack's parents mumbled a response without taking their eyes off their screens. Aunty Sonia frowned. She had expected them to at least ask why she was there. But they didn't. It was as if nothing outside their work mattered to them. Taking a deep breath, she squared her shoulders. Because she couldn't believe it, she stood for some minutes, just waiting for them to reply. Unfortunately, they didn't even lift their heads from their laptops. Their fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, their eyes glued to the glowing screens, as if she wasn't even there. Miss Sonia sighed in frustration. Unbelievable. She shook her head and walked away, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Zack's parents were the wealthiest people in town, but they were also the coldest. They had dedicated their entire lives to making money, believing that wealth was the ultimate solution to everything. In their eyes, love, time, and attention were meaningless if they could provide luxury. But what was the point of all the riches in the world if your own child felt like an orphan? The next day, Miss Sonia sat in class, her mind replaying what had happened at Zack's house. So, it's true. Zack's parents really don't care about him. The thought fascinated her. She had always suspected it, but now, after seeing it firsthand, she realized just how easy it would be to take advantage of the situation. A wicked smile crept onto her face. If Zack's parents don't have time for him, then there's a high chance of me having my way with him without them knowing. Since they pay little or no attention to him, I will do whatever I want, and they won't find out. This is a golden opportunity. I must grab it. A shiver of excitement ran through her. Everything was working in her favor. No one was watching, and no one would stop her. Just then, Zack entered the class. His small voice interrupted her thoughts. "Aunty Sonia, would you bathe me? My mom left for work, and she didn't even bathe me." Aunty Sonia's eyes lit up with amusement. "Wow, Zack, this is unbelievable. It looks like you have no parents. You are no different from children who have no one to care for them. She smirked and placed a hand on his shoulder. Let me bathe you first, then you will eat later. Okay, Aunty Sonia. Thanks, Zack said, his voice soft and innocent. Don't worry, Zack. You are always welcome, she replied smoothly. Hey, Zack, why don't I just take you home and bath you? Okay, Aunty Sonia, no problem. Meanwhile, Aunty Sonia was having bad intentions for Zack as soon as they arrived. This happened. Instead of taking him to the bathroom, she took him to her room. She took off her clothes and Zack's clothes. She started touching his private part. What are you doing, Aunty Sonia? Zack shouted. Don't touch me like that, I don't like it, Aunty Sonia said. Don't worry, Zack. Everything will be fine. She started kissing him, playing love with him. Zack couldn't understand what was happening. She finally had her way with him for the second time. She said to herself, this game is getting interesting. I need to upgrade it. But deep down, Zack felt something was off. That evening, when he went home, his chest was heavy and his heart was full of fear. His parents were sitting in the living room. As usual, their laptops open, their fingers dancing across the keyboard. They didn't even look up when he entered. Tears welled up in Zack's eyes. He stood there for a moment, waiting, hoping just maybe they would notice him. But they didn't. His heart ached. He ran to his room, locked the door, and curled up on his bed, sobbing into his pillow. His whole body shook as he tried to push the memories of the day out of his head. Why don't they care about me? But no answer came. The next morning, he couldn't bring himself to go to school. He couldn't face Aunty Sonia again. He couldn't handle another day of loneliness and fear. But his parents didn't even notice he was missing. The next day, Zack tried to stay home again, but this time, his parents were around. There was no way they would let him stay back. Mom, I don't want to go to school anymore, Zack said, his voice trembling. Before he could say another word, a sharp slap landed across his cheek. The sting burned his skin, and his eyes filled with tears. Don't be stupid, Zack. You will go to school, whether you like it or not, his mother snapped, her voice full of irritation. Zack held his cheek, his hands shaking. He wanted to scream, to tell her everything, to beg her to listen. But he knew it wouldn't matter. Arguing was useless. His father didn't even bother looking up from his laptop. Tears streamed down Zack's face as he dragged himself to school. As soon as he stepped into the classroom, Aunty Sonia's voice called out, Hey, Zack, where have you been? Zack lowered his head, his heart racing. Silence. Aunty Sonia stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. If this happens again, she said, her breath warm against his ear, you will not like what I will do to you. A chill ran down Zack's spine. He was trapped. At school, he had no friends. No one spoke to him. No one played with him. He was just a shadow in the corner of the classroom. Every day, he watched his classmates being picked up by their parents. He watched as they were hugged, kissed, and carried home with love and care. And every day, he felt worse. Why can't my parents love me like that? The school term was coming to an end, and Zack knew he had to collect his results. But his heart was heavy. The next morning, he hesitantly approached Aunty Sonia's desk. Auntie, I'm here for my results, he said softly. Aunty Sonia grinned. Oh, my lovely boy, your results are here. But your performance is poor. Don't worry, I got you. Everything will be fine. She glanced at the paper in her hand, then looked at Zack with a fake expression of concern. I'm taking this result to your parents, she said. Zack's stomach twisted in knots. Why? I want to know why you always perform poorly in school. But Zack knew that was a lie. Aunty Sonia had another plan. She finally arrived at Zack's house. His parents were, as expected, busy on their laptops. They barely acknowledged her presence. Good afternoon, sir, madam, Aunty Sonia greeted. No response. She cleared her throat. Madam, here's your son's result. He has been performing very poorly in school. He hasn't passed any exams, and that's why I came to see how we can help him. Still, no response. Aunty Sonia continued, her voice smooth and persuasive. Madam, would you like me to take your son for studies during the holidays since school is closing? For the first time, Zack's parents reacted. His mother looked up from her screen. What did you just say? I said I'd like to take your son to my place to help him study and improve his performance. A pause. Then, Zack's mother's face lit up. Really? That would be great. I'd love that. You're a teacher, after all. I believe you will take good care of him. Zack's heart stopped. No, Mum. I can't go with Aunty Sonia. No, Mummy. Please don't let her take me. She's not a good person. But his mother ignored him. His father barely looked up. Aunty Sonia smirked. Zack's fate was sealed.